What most golfers are looking for is something that they can do or add to their movement to make their golf swing better. And that, unfortunately, is a very flawed approach. The refinement of movements by the human body is always a process of subtraction. We're always doing too much when we start out any task or any skill that we're learning, and we gradually learn how to refine and use the natural acceleration available to us to make all of our movements more effortless. And a golf swing is no different. So yes, we all want the shortcut. Can I add something? Can I find that magic movement or that magic thing I'm not doing that I need to add into my golf swing? No, it's actually the other way around. So what we really want to explore is what are the things that we need to remove? What are we doing too much of, and how do we actually remove those things so we can start to get a more natural and effortless, true accelerating golf swing? All right, let's get started. The fundamental flaw and the root of, I think, most people's golf swing problems, and where they really need to get a clarification of the understanding of the true function of a golf swing, is that you can speed the golf swing up by using the shaft. It's a very, very natural and impulsive thing to do, is to get going in your golf swing and feel like if I add something to the shaft, whether I push the handle or I try to flip the handle using the rigidity of the shaft, or I try to throw my body out in front, if I do that at just the right time, I'm going to accentuate the acceleration of the golf swing. And that, unfortunately, is exactly the opposite of how a golf swing works. See, a golf swing is a folding and an unfolding. It is based on the curvature of a logarithmic spiral, just like all of our natural movements are. And this is a function of gravity, and it's a function of developing on the planet Earth, is that we don't force our masses to move, rather we allow them to be moved by an understanding of the elasticity of pressure that it is caused by gravity. Now that's some very, very kind of complicated physics, but it is something that our body has been sensing since the day that we're born. So the golf swing shape and the golf swing, the thing that you need to picture to be able to get rid of trying to do the extra, is actually a reaching and natural outward accelerating curve. The whole goal of the golf swing is to get it such that it can fly outward to strike the golf ball in the shape of a logarithmic spiral. Now, when we look at golf swings, we oftentimes see them as circles and arcs because we can't see the whole spiral. But the reality is that we really need to get in there. So when you think that you can speed the club shaft up, your body reacts very, very differently. It starts trying to get in front of force. And so if you're going to try to force the golf club to speed up, well, then you're going to start to develop a golf swing that it actually is out of time and out of sequence and has very, very kind of limiting returns. And the fundamental cause, before I move on in this video, the really fundamental cause of that is that most of us don't do that when we just take a practice swing. We tend to be very, very, very fluid with our movement. It's when we have the golf ball in front of us that creates this impulse that I can add energy to this that's going to add energy to that and get it to go farther. But in the reality is that this needs to be a part of me, and it needs to curve outwards and be on a constant, effortless, accelerating arc. And as we get a sense of what that's like, then our body learns how to predict that movement and then learns how to get it to go faster and faster. So in the next segment of the video, we're going to use my Training Aid to Pro to understand what it is to actually allow the acceleration to work for you and what that actually feels and looks like versus how the Pro shows you when you're adding impulse. So when I'm training players using the Pro, the first Pro swings are always something like this. They're some rendition of what they think they need to do with their body in a golf swing, especially if they've been a struggling player. And so what happens with the Pro is that it doesn't get around their back, they don't make a big enough turn, their body starts to get out in front, and then they start to try to really add something to the bottom of the arc, which makes the Pro really lag like so. It bends, it deforms. And the optimal with the Pro is to keep it from deforming. That's when you know that the timing of your movement is really starting to enhance the outward curvature of a logarithmic spiral to strike for you. So that impulse is very, very important to eliminate. So what we don't need is we don't need to add more. We need to learn how to get rid of that so the actual curvature you can get the dance, if you will, of the body with the curvature. That's how we need to picture the golf swing. So the golf swing's picture actually needs to be in the shape of a logarithmic spiral. That's easy to see actually with the Pro, because when I get it all the way back into my body and I learn how to take those distortions out, you can see the timing of my body movement is different. My body's learning to get ready for something to happen as opposed to try to get out in front of something I think that I need to add to my golf swing. So what we really need to do to understand a golf swing is to simply learn how to use the pro and keep it in alignment while we let it curve outward to a point that we would like to strike. So in the case of a golf swing, I want it to make this outward curvature that never, ever, ever gets pulled back into the body, that's always working outward such that that acceleration is very, very natural. When you can capture that outward curvature, you start to have the right picture of a golf swing. So working that back to the golf club, it's just a matter of, okay, well, how would I get the golf club on that curvature? Well, the problem with the golf club is you can't fold it all the way into your center. It doesn't have a rope as a shaft. But we need to kind of still have that same idea. So the golf swing's timing isn't trying to get out in front of this. It's actually learning to wait for it to come in. And this is why you see players tend to have this weight shift, but that weight shift isn't happening while the golf club is coming through, is that it's actually happening in the transition as this folds inwards. That's a very, very natural prediction for the body. It's like, oh, that's come inwards. Now I've got the golf club in a spot where it can actually start to curve out just like my pro. So it's eliminating all this impulse against the shaft that really gets you to the point where you can really learn how to understand how to capture the energy and the natural acceleration of a logarithmic spiral. So when one sees the golf swing that way, then they really have a chance to start to let their body naturally refine that movement, just like you learned how to do anything else.